Hey, what's up? This is Chris, host of I'm Starting From Scratch podcast. This is my second go around here trying to make the first YouTube video. Yeah, I spent some time talking about how mistakes can turn into opportunities or learning experiences. And for the second time, I made a whole video with the camera turned the wrong way. And then I went to upload it to the computer, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, oh, I can't believe I made that mistake again. So maybe this time I'll really learn from my mistake and get it right in the future. So I've discovered that creating YouTube videos and live videos is one of the best ways to get to know people and help find an audience if you're trying to spread a message or if you're trying to get yourself out there. And that's what I'm trying to do with this podcast. My journey has been learning to be an entrepreneur, learning to make my own money so I could become my own boss. And the reason I've started on that journey and the reason I'm creating this podcast is because I felt really frustrated and trapped in my 9-to-5 job. And I know a lot of other people do too. And they're looking for a way to create money from home or create more time in your life. And if you can create more money, and then you can also use that money to do positive things in the world, or you could use that money to hire people to do things that you're doing right now so you could have more time to spend with your family or your friends, or you could travel. I'm sure all of you have big hopes or dreams. I myself have some big goals that I want to reach, and so that's why I've begun this journey. But there's a lot of difficult things you run into when you kind of leave that normal structure of working for someone else and having a guaranteed paycheck. And I've run into some big struggles in the last month, actually, in the last 2-3 weeks have been very difficult. And that came at an interesting time because I was just getting ready to launch this podcast called I'm Starting From Scratch, where I'm trying to talk about learning to be an entrepreneur. And I'm facing the reality of having to take a full-time job again after almost a year without. I left my full-time job about a year ago, and I wanted to start my own business, and I wanted to learn to work for myself. And I almost felt like I failed when I realized, okay, it's probably time to get a full-time job for a while here. But thinking a little more deeply about it, I realized it's not a failure at all, because for the past year almost, I have managed to support myself and pay the bills. And besides that, be there for the family. And I've spent a lot more time with my wife and kids than I have previously in many years. And I've come a long way on things I'm working on. In fact, my business is not making lots of money, but I have come along. You know, there's more going on than there was before. Let me tell you a little bit about some of the things I've done to make money since I quit my full-time job. I worked as a carpenter for many years, and then I worked as a maintenance man. And when I quit my job, I started doing handyman work, odds and ends for people I knew. And I also started a business selling products on Amazon. Well, a product to begin with. I only had about $1,200 that I started this business out with, so that really limited how big it could get and how quickly. It started off pretty well, and then I ran into some big speed bumps. And I talk about that in my second episode of I'm Starting From Scratch. So check out I'mStartingFromScratch.com, and you can look at the podcasts I've created, and I'm going to start uploading some of the interviews I've done. So I'm trying to reach out to people like myself who want to get out of the sort of grind of working for someone else, of feeling trapped in your job. And I especially want to reach out to people who want to do something that means something, that want to live a life of purpose and spend their time doing something that makes them feel good about themselves and leads to happiness. Because that's what I'm all about. And so if that requires, getting a different job and then starting your own business for a while and maybe failing at one and starting another, maybe that's part of the process. You're going to make some mistakes, and there's going to be some slips and falls on the way, and it's not going to be easy. But I can almost guarantee, from what I've learned and talking to other people, one of the hardest things you run into is getting past your own mind. Getting in the right mindset, the right frame of mind to become an entrepreneur is probably the single most important thing that will help you out, that has helped me out, and I ran into some recent troubles, and I'm going to share those with you a little bit the last 2-3 weeks, because these big learning experiences, when you hear someone else going through similar problems, it helps you out. And what I really want to do is provide you with some motivation and some encouragement to follow your dreams. So one of the big lessons I learned recently was, you never want to give up. You got to believe in yourself, and that's really hard when you work for yourself. Because, for instance, I had a series of things that happened over the past few weeks. A good friend of mine died, and this was a guy who I had worked for quite a bit, so that was a stream of income too. But more importantly, someone I really got to know and cared about, and it hit me pretty hard emotionally. Right around that same time, a family member passed away, and my wife's mom got sick, and my daughter got sick for a little while too. And so in a period of 2 or 3 weeks, I lost quite a few work days where I normally would have had opportunities to make money, but I was, dealing with these different things that came up. And so, all of a sudden I'm looking at my bills and realizing, like, wow, I'm not going to be able to make it this month. And I was really stressed out, and I was feeling a lot of anxiety and some depression too. And here this is right at the time when I'm getting ready to launch this podcast that's going to be all about helping people get out of their jobs, and I'm basically feeling like a failure, And I thought about some of the advice I got from other entrepreneurs and some of the interviews I have done, and I was really glad I'd done those and that I talked to those people, because the advice really helped me out. And there's a couple specific things I want to share with you in this video. And the first is that, failures, what seem like failures, are always learning opportunities. So one of the big things that occurred to me was, if I get to this point where I'm feeling like depressed and anxiety and stress, then that really puts me in a better position to help out other people, because other people who decide to go on this mission I'm on of starting their own business or separating from their full-time job are going to go through periods of anxiety, periods of depression, periods of intense stress, and you're going to need someone who's been there and who's experienced it to encourage you and explain that you're going to get through it. It's part of the journey. You don't get from here to there without getting in some tough spots. It's not going to be all easy. So I've been there, and I still am. And I think that's what's going to make this podcast unique, because a lot of stuff you listen to are people saying, I'm going to make you rich. And I'm not saying that. I'm saying I'm going to help you. I'm going to encourage you, and I'm going to help motivate you, and I'm going to share my journey with you as I'm going through it, because I'm not the type to give up. And so the second thing that you really need to know if you're thinking about leaving your full-time job is, take things really slow and small. You want to take things one step at a time. I've always kind of been the reckless type. I just jump into things, and sometimes I get myself into trouble that way. And it is important to just get started on whatever it is you want to do. But you can do that in a small way, in an incremental way, one piece at a time. You can start by spending a little time each week and creating your plan. I'm going to talk about that. I have a worksheet I started on imstartingfromscratch.com, worksheet number 1. And this is going to help you kind of set aside a little bit of time each week to work on your business plan or your side hustle idea, and begin creating an actual plan. The sooner you start doing that, the sooner you're going to get closer to your goal. And the sooner you get out there and make a mistake, the sooner you can learn from it and move on. What held me back for a long time from making this particular video was, look at my lighting's not really perfect right here. The background is my messy garage, and I wanted to get all that just right, but I realized, if I keep waiting for everything to be right, I'm never going to do this. I just need to get it going. And as I go, I can get better at it. I can look at the video and say, oh, this could have been better, that could have been better, and I can improve it as I go. Everything doesn't always need to be perfect to get started. You got to start somewhere. And this is that somewhere. This is where I'm at. And I think that's why if you're someone like myself and you're wanting to become an entrepreneur, you want to become your own boss, you're going to enjoy I'm starting from scratch, because we're on this journey together. And even if I do take a normal full-time job again in the coming weeks, I'm going to keep working on my business ideas, and I'm going to keep working on this podcast, and I'm going to keep encouraging you to do the same. And I think it's a huge mind shift when you've already taken a few steps into your journey, as opposed to when you're just starting out. Because just starting out's the hardest part, because you have no idea what you're in for. And that's scary. It's really scary. But I think it's going to really help to know that there's other people on the journey with you that have taken these steps and have maybe, fallen down a few times and gotten back up, and explain to you how you get through these things. How do you get past the depression? How do you get past the anxiety? How do you get past that feeling of you're up against a brick wall? I got a lot of tips and ideas, and I'm going to talk about those in the podcast. So come along and join with me, and you can check out the Facebook group that I'm going to create, that I've just started, so you can be one of the first members. And I'll put the link right below here in the YouTube video, so you can check that out. And the podcast is brand new. I haven't even released it, the RSS feed, as of right now. So you can get you can be one of the early people in here and get a preview, behind the scenes look before I even release it here. And you can be part of the show if you're interested. You can contact me, and I'm looking to interview other people that are on a similar journey that I am, so we can help other folks out and create a community of encouragement as we go forward in building our businesses or our side hustle, and learning how to make money online, and how to create a business or a service to provide some value to other people, and to make our lives better and to reach our goals. So I'm going to end this video for now before I go on, and look forward to seeing you around. Thanks for listening.